The ultimatum. Commander Jackson Hayes stared through the reinforced viewport of Defense Station Aegis, watching as another orbital defense satellite exploded in a brilliant flash before darkness swallowed it. From his position on the command deck, Earth hung below, a beautiful blue sphere now terrifyingly vulnerable. The Vexter attack fleet had torn through humanity's outer defenses with frightening efficiency. Now only Aegis stood between them and Earth. "How many ships remain in our fleet?" Jackson asked, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding him. Lieutenant Nadia Okafor glanced up from her console, her face illuminated by the pulsing red emergency lights. 23 operational vessels, Commander. The Vexter have over 300 approaching." Jackson nodded, absorbing the information without changing his expression. The command center bustled with controlled urgency, officers relaying information, tactical specialists analyzing enemy patterns, and communications experts maintaining the increasingly fragile network connecting Earth's last defenders. "Time until they're in range?" he asked. 37 minutes, Commander," replied Tactical Officer Benjamin Rivera. "They're maintaining their current speed and formation." Jackson turned away from the viewport, facing the large strategic display at the center of the command deck. The holographic projection showed the overwhelming Vexter fleet, each ship represented by a crimson marker advancing inexorably toward Earth. Their blue markers were pitifully few in comparison. "Major Wilson," Jackson called to his second-in-command, "prepare the emergency transmission, it's time." Wilson nodded grimly and began coordinating with the communications team. Everyone on the command deck knew what this meant. It was time for humanity's last warning, their final desperate attempt to prevent total annihilation. 8 months ago, humanity had celebrated its greatest achievement, first contact with an alien civilization. The Vexter had appeared at the edge of the solar system, elegant obsidian ships that defied human understanding of physics. Their initial communications had been peaceful, speaking of cultural exchange and mutual advancement. Jackson remembered watching the broadcasts with his partner Morgan and their son Eli from their home in New Seattle. Eli, just 9 years old, had been fascinated by the images of the alien vessels, his eyes wide with wonder. "Will I get to meet them, Dad?" he had asked. Jackson had smiled and ruffled his son's hair. "Maybe someday, little one." How quickly someday had turned to nightmare. The peace lasted barely a month before the Vexter revealed their true intentions. They hadn't come to share knowledge, they had come to conquer. Their initial delegation had been gathering intelligence, identifying Earth's weaknesses, and preparing for invasion. The first attack came without warning. The Vexter destroyed the lunar colonies in a single strike, killing over 20,000 people. Next came Mars, then the mining operations in the asteroid belt. Humanity fought back with everything they had, but their technology was vastly inferior. In those desperate early days, as governments worldwide scrambled to unite against the external threat, Jackson had been pulled from his position as aerospace commander to lead Earth's orbital defenses. Morgan and Eli were evacuated to one of the underground shelters beneath the Appalachian Mountains, along with millions of other civilians. The last time he had seen them was 112 days ago. He kept their picture on his tablet, Morgan's gentle eyes and warm smile, Eli's gap-toothed grin and wild hair. Every decision Jackson made was with them in mind, with the weight of knowing that failure meant they would never see another sunrise. Commander, Chief Science Officer Dr. Olivia Nakamura approached, holding a secured tablet. "Project Nemesis is ready for activation. All systems are green." Jackson took the tablet, entering his authorization code. The screen flashed red in confirmation. "Have the other command keys been authorized?" "Yes, Commander. The United Earth Defense Council has provided all 5 authorization codes. You now have full operational control of Nemesis." Project Nemesis, humanity's terrible last resort, the weapon they had prayed they would never need to use. No one outside the highest levels of military command knew exactly what Nemesis was capable of. The project had begun decades ago as a theoretical physics experiment, but had been accelerated dramatically after the Vexter invasion. The scientific team led by Dr. Nakamura had worked tirelessly to bring it from concept to reality. All Jackson knew was that it had the potential to not only defeat the Vexter, but to fundamentally alter the laws of physics within the solar system itself. Dr. Nakamura had described it as weaponized quantum entanglement, a concept so terrifying that even the hardened military leaders had blanched when briefed on its potential consequences. "Commander, transmission ready," Wilson reported. Global broadcast systems are aligned. We can reach the Vector fleet and simultaneously transmit to all Earth defense forces and civilian shelters. Jackson took a deep breath, straightening his uniform jacket. He smoothed back his graying hair and moved to the communications station. The crew watched in silence, understanding the gravity of what was about to happen. "Open the channels," he ordered. The main screen flickered, revealing the face of the Vector commander. They were vaguely humanoid in basic shape, but their skin was a deep obsidian, reflecting light like polished stone. Their eyes glowed amber with no discernible pupils, giving them an expression of perpetual intensity. The commander's head was adorned with ridge-like formations that might have been decorative or might have served some biological function. Human scientists had never been given enough time to study Vector physiology before the war began. "I am Commander Jackson Hayes of the United Earth Defense Forces," Jackson began, his voice clear and unwavering. "I speak on behalf of humanity with this final communication." The Vector commander's head tilted slightly. When it spoke, its voice was deep and resonant, translated through the AI systems that had been working to bridge the communication gap since first contact. "The conquest of your world is inevitable, Commander Hayes. Your defenses are failing. Surrender now, and a portion of your species will be preserved as subjects of the Vector Dominion." Jackson's jaw tightened. "We have monitored your advance through our solar system. We have witnessed the destruction of our colonies and the slaughter of our people. Humanity will not surrender. We will not become subjects." The Vector commander's expression didn't change. Of course it didn't. Human expressions of emotion meant nothing to them. "Then you will be eliminated," it stated simply. "Your species' resistance is futile and illogical." "Before you continue your advance," Jackson said, "I am authorized to inform you that humanity has developed a weapon of last resort. We call it Project Nemesis." For the first time, the Vector commander showed a reaction, a slight narrowing of those amber eyes. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm our fleets." Jackson activated a sequence on his tablet, and the transmission included technical specifications of Nemesis, enough to demonstrate its power without revealing how it worked. "Nemesis is not a conventional weapon," he explained. "It targets the quantum fabric of reality itself. If activated, it will create a cascading entanglement disruption that will expand outward from Earth at faster-than-light speeds, affecting everything in its path for a minimum distance of 3 light-years." The data scrolled across the screen: theoretical models, energy signatures, and a projected radius of effect. The science was beyond Jackson's complete understanding, but the implications were clear. If Nemesis was activated, nothing within the solar system would survive, including Earth itself. "This is Earth's final warning," Jackson continued, his voice dropping lower but maintaining its strength. "Withdraw your forces beyond the orbit of Neptune. Establish a non-aggression treaty with humanity. If you continue this war, if you advance 1 kilometer closer to Earth, we will activate Nemesis." He leaned forward slightly, looking directly into those alien eyes. "We would rather destroy ourselves and you together than live as your slaves. The choice is yours. You have 30 minutes to begin your withdrawal." Jackson signaled and Wilson cut the transmission. The command center was silent. Everyone present understood what had just been declared. If the Vector called their bluff, humanity would face an impossible choice: surrender and eventual extinction, or activate Nemesis and ensure mutual destruction. Jackson returned to the viewport, looking down at the blue planet below. Somewhere beneath those swirling white clouds, beneath the surface of the Earth itself, Morgan and Eli were waiting, hopping, praying. He placed his palm against the cold, transparent material, as if trying to reach across the void to touch them one last time. "Now we wait," he said quietly, more to himself than to the crew. The stars continued to shine, oblivious to the fate being decided beneath them. Humanity had delivered its ultimatum. The next move belonged to the Vector, and the clock was ticking. 27 minutes and counting. The command center of Orbital Defense Station, Aegis, had fallen into an eerie quiet, broken only by the soft beeping of monitoring systems and the occasional hushed communication between officers. Everyone's eyes kept darting to the central chronometer as it counted down the minutes until humanity's ultimatum expired. Dr. Nakamura approached Jackson, her voice low. "Commander, there's something about Nemesis you should know. The Council, they didn't tell you everything." Jackson turned to her, his expression darkening. "What do you mean?" Nemesis isn't just destruction, she whispered. The quantum disruption, our models suggest it creates a bubble of altered physical laws. Inside that bubble, reality itself operates differently. We might not be destroyed, we might be transformed, both us and the Vexter. As Jackson processed this revelation, the tactical display updated. The Vexter fleet had halted its advance but hadn't begun to withdraw. Were they actually considering the ultimatum, or were they simply analyzing Nemesis, trying to determine if it was a bluff? The fate of two species hung in the balance as the countdown continued its relentless march toward zero. The transformation. 25 minutes remained on the countdown when the main screen flickered back to life. The obsidian face of the Vexter commander filled the display, those amber eyes studying Jackson with newfound intensity. Commander Hayes, the alien's translated voice resonated through the command center. We have analyzed your weapon specifications. Our scientists find them disturbing. Jackson maintained his composure, though a flicker of hope kindled in his chest. Then you understand the consequences, your decision. The Vexter commander's ridged head tilted slightly. We do not believe any rational species would activate such a weapon. The risk of mutual annihilation contradicts basic survival instinct. That's where you've misunderstood us from the beginning, Jackson replied. Humans don't always choose the rational path. Our history is filled with examples of people who chose death over submission, who sacrificed themselves so others might live free. We call it courage, honor, defiance. The tactical display updated, showing movement in the Vexter fleet. But they weren't withdrawing, they were advancing a small contingent of ships. They're testing us, Lieutenant Okafor reported, her voice tight with tension. 5 vessels breaking formation moving toward Earth. Jackson's heart sank. They don't believe we'll do it. He turned back to the screen. Your ships are advancing. Nemesis activation sequence continues. The Vexter commander's expression remained unreadable. A demonstration of your resolve is required. If this weapon exists as you claim, you now have reason to use it. Jackson exchanged a grave look with Dr. Nakamura. The Vexter were calling their bluff, or at least, what they perceived as a bluff. All Prometheus nodes reporting ready, Dr. Nakamura confirmed quietly. Quantum entanglement network stable. Jackson addressed the communication station. Broadcast to all Earth Defense Forces and civilian shelters, Project Nemesis activation sequence continues. Countdown at 20 minutes to critical stage. The weight of what was happening settled onto his shoulders. 20 minutes until the point of no return. 20 minutes until humanity would either secure its freedom or hurtle into an unknown transformation alongside its enemies. Your fleet continues to advance, Jackson observed, facing the Vexter commander once more. You still believe we're bluffing. I believe you are rational beings, the Vexter replied, and rational beings choose survival. Jackson nodded to Dr. Nakamura, who transmitted a new set of data, the complete Nemesis specifications, including the theoretical models of its transformation effects. What you're seeing is the truth about Nemesis, Jackson explained. Not just destruction but transformation. Nemesis doesn't simply end us, it changes the rules. If activated, neither humans nor Vexter will continue as we are now. We will all be transformed into something new, something unknown. The Vexter commander's eyes widened slightly as it processed the information. For several long moments, it was silent, presumably communicating with its scientists. This technology, the alien finally spoke, a new note of uncertainty in its voice. The consequences would be unpredictable. Yes, Jackson agreed. For both our species, that's the point. We would rather face the unknown together than live under your dominion. 15 minutes remaining. The command center held its collective breath as the Vexter commander fell silent again. The only sound was the soft beeping of the countdown. Commander Okafor called suddenly, the advancing Vexter ships, they've stopped. All eyes turned to the tactical display. The 5 vessels had indeed halted their approach. Maintain countdown, Jackson ordered, his voice firm. They need to withdraw completely. The screen flickered as the Vexter commander re-established communication. We require evidence that this Nemesis weapon exists beyond theoretical models. Jackson had anticipated this. He nodded to Dr. Nakamura, who activated a secondary console. The main screen split to show a remote feed from Earth's moon, a small, uninhabited crater on the far side. Activating localized Nemesis field, Dr. Nakamura reported. Targeting lunar grid 27B minimal power contained radius. A soft hum built throughout the station as power was diverted to the demonstration. On the screen, the lunar surface appeared unchanged for several seconds. Then gradually a shimmer appeared like heat waves rising from hot asphalt. The shimmer expanded, covering the crater. Within its boundaries, the regolith began to change color, shifting through the spectrum until settling on a deep purple. Crystal formations began growing at impossible speeds, reaching upward like alien trees. The lunar demonstration is contained and will dissipate in approximately 3 minutes, Jackson explained. This is a fraction of Nemesis's full capability, using less than 1% of available power. The complete activation would encompass the entire solar system. The Vexter commander stared at the transformed lunar landscape, its expression showing the first signs of what might have been fear. Your species would risk such fundamental transformation, it asked, even your own extinction. To protect our freedom, yes, Jackson's voice was firm, that is what it means to be human. 10 minutes remaining. The command center held its breath as the Vexter commander appeared to be engaged in intense communication with others off-screen. The lunar demonstration continued, the crystal formations now interacting with each other, creating complex lattice structures that defied conventional physics. Commander Akafer reported suddenly, the Vexter fleet is moving. The tactical display updated, showing the red markers changing position. The 5 test vessels were returning to the main fleet, and the entire armada was beginning to shift its formation. Are they withdrawing? Major Wilson asked, the first hint of hope in his voice in weeks. Tactical Officer Rivera studied the data, his fingers flying across his console. After a moment he looked up, his expression cautiously optimistic. Confirmed they're changing course. Current trajectory suggests they're heading toward the outer solar system. A murmur ran through the command center as the reality set in. The Vexter were actually retreating. Maintain Nemesis activation sequence, Jackson ordered. Until they're beyond Neptune's orbit, we don't stand down. 5 minutes remained when the Vexter commander spoke again. We have evaluated the evidence and consulted our highest authorities. The Vexter Dominion is reconsidering its position on Earth. Reconsidering isn't enough, Jackson replied. Complete withdrawal beyond Neptune's orbit and a formal non-aggression treaty are our terms. Our fleet has altered course, the Vexter confirmed. We will comply with your territorial demands, however we propose an alternative to simple non-aggression. Jackson raised an eyebrow, I'm listening. The technology you call Nemesis reveals understanding beyond what we estimated from your species. We propose a limited scientific exchange, controlled communication between our researchers to explore the implications of reality manipulation. The command center buzzed with surprised whispers. This was unexpected, a complete reversal from the Vexter's previous position. You came to conquer us, Jackson reminded the alien. Why would we trust you now? The Vexter commander's ridged head lowered slightly, a gesture they had never witnessed before. The Vexter Dominion conquers what it deems inferior. Your Nemesis technology demonstrates you are not inferior, you are different in ways we failed to comprehend. 2 minutes remaining. Commander Hayes, Dr. Nakamura whispered urgently, if they're sincere, this could change everything, the scientific potential alone. Jackson held up his hand, silencing her. Your fleet continues to withdraw. Yes, the Vexter confirmed. We will maintain the agreed distance. The choice of further communication remains yours. Jackson studied the alien face on the screen, searching for deception. After 8 months of brutal warfare, after the loss of thousands of lives, the idea of any cooperation seemed impossible. And yet, Nemesis had changed the equation fundamentally. Chief Science Officer Nakamura will establish protocols for limited scientific communication, Jackson finally said. But be warned, Nemesis remains operational. Any violation of our territorial sovereignty will result in immediate activation. Understood, Commander Hayes. The Vexter inclined its head in what appeared to be a gesture of respect. We will await your communication protocols. The screen went dark as the transmission ended. For a moment, the command center remained silent, stunned by the sudden turn of events. All stations report, Jackson ordered, breaking the spell. Vexter fleet continuing withdrawal. Current speed will take them beyond Neptune's orbit in approximately 17 hours. Rivera confirmed. Nemesis systems stable, ready for deactivation on your command, Dr. Nakamura reported. Global Defense Network reconnecting, civilian shelters reporting in, Wilson added. Jackson moved to the viewport once more, gazing down at Earth. For the first time in months, he allowed himself to feel something close to hope. Somewhere on that blue planet, Morgan and Eli were waiting. Perhaps now they might have a future after all. Maintain Nemesis readiness but pause the countdown, he ordered. And open a channel to the United Earth Defense Council. Tell them, he paused, searching for words that could capture the magnitude of what had just transpired. Tell them the war is over, and something new has begun. As the Vexter fleet receded into the depths of space, humanity stood at the threshold of an unprecedented era. They had been told to stop the war, and their response, the mere threat of catastrophic transformation, had changed everything. Not through destruction, but through the possibility of a transformation so profound it had forced two species to reconsider what it meant to be enemies. The stars continued their silent vigil, witnessing the first tentative steps toward an uneasy peace between beings who had nearly annihilated each other. Whatever came next would be uncharted territory for humans and Vexter alike.